And I put out a question to my threads today, um, asking, are any other women experiencing like extreme neck and back pain? And I had a bunch of people respond, yes, what is going on? And a few people offered their interpretations. And so I wanted to come live here and share with you guys um, kind of what's going on, why this is happening. Uh, at first, let me introduce myself. My name is Morgan. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I challenge myself to go live on YouTube every day for the month of February. And so far, I have, just talking about whatever I want. But every once in a while, I have a little bit more strategy with this stuff. So I wanted to talk about something that's really resonating with the zeitgeist, with the energy in the world right now, and to offer a resource to be like, first of all, you're not the only one who's like, what is going on? Why is this coming up? And there's for me, it makes it easier to be like, oh, of course, there's something in in the air. This is just an energetic transformation that's happening. Um, One of the things I talked about on my live yesterday is like so often when we experience any sort of loss or pain or injury or illness, the question is why? Why is this happening? And that is not necessarily a useful question, although I will be addressing a few different interpretations of why this is happening. But the real question that you need to ask yourself is what does this energy need? What do I need? So I'm gonna work with my Oracle deck today. I don't often do this anymore. I usually do it on Insight Timer, the meditation app. The vibe over there is a little easier. But I wanted to pull a few cards for the collective to kind of give a little bit of spiritual message context. And then I have a few channeled messages for myself as I was sitting with this energy today. I've had multiple clients and yoga students this week come up to me and tell me they're having back problems. And it's like kind of something that happens like relatively quickly, an acute thing, which is very interesting to me. For me, it's manifested as I was on the ski mountain like 2 weeks ago, maybe, and these things always hit me early because I'm so fucking sensitive. And I fell, not a big fall, but I kind of wrenched my shoulder a bit, and it's been like, just kind of like bugging me. And then earlier this week, Sunday, I slipped coming down the stairs, and I didn't fall completely, but I kind of grabbed myself in the same way where it like, kind of like jiggled that area, and it's just been like burning pain since then. And I was working with my massage therapist healer last night and kind of explaining to him what's going on. But I also was working with another healing client myself, because I'm a healer myself, yesterday. And Faith, you're having hip flexor problems. Yeah, I mean, it's manifesting in different ways. Wherever you have any sort of weakness, any sort of inherent weakness or any old injuries, it's very easy for that stuff to get re-triggered. And now is kind of the time that it's going to come up. And if we want there to be a reason, the reason this pain is coming up is so that it can be healed. Okay, so I'm going to teach you guys kind of how to heal this stuff. Am I Midwest? I don't know. I'm in Wyoming. Does that count as Midwest? I travel all the time. I'm just here for a couple of months. So I have one card here that I really love, the Sacred Soul Sister. And then I just wanted a couple of cards here. Yes, okay, I love these cards. So as I was working with my client yesterday, what came up a lot for her was just the need for rest, but not necessarily like sleep rest, because sometimes sleep can just turn into depression, and especially if you've got like some spinal issues. What it actually needs is movement. And she mentioned doing some activities where she didn't feel the pain at all when she was doing the activities. And I was like, that's what you need more of. And I've had that experience as well. When I'm doing the things that actually bring me joy, that are actively bringing me joy, I'm not experiencing any pain. Like I went skiing today and like really went for it. I've been skiing my whole life and was just like, I only had an hour or so to ski before I had to go teach yoga. So I was just like ripping down the mountain and experienced no pain, even though driving to the mountain, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is such a good idea while I'm experiencing what feels like an injury. And then I realized like, oh, this isn't like physical pain that is caused by an injury. This is physical pain that's, or rather spiritual pain that's manifesting as physical pain. And the last time I experienced a lot of pain, a lot of soft tissue damage through here, I was in a car accident. Somebody ran a red light and T-boned me. Still mad about that. Um, and and it turns out that it was like the relationship I was in really needed to end, and I really needed to like sit with the heartbreak and the grief, right? So a lot of the pain that's coming in is old grief that you're being asked to transmute into joy, because that is the purpose of all suffering. Any suffering that you experience, if we want there to be a purpose behind it, the purpose is to figure out, how can I transmute this into joy? And so for me, that's going to look like going out in nature, getting on the ski mountain. It's going to look like, I love my job. I love teaching yoga. When I'm teaching yoga, no pain. No pain whatsoever. Very interesting, isn't it? How it's like that message of pain to your brain can transform and change, and you can learn how to sit with it. But there does come a point where you have to just like go deep into the pain and have a conversation with it and ask it what it needs. And if the response is something like rest, ask for more information, right? This is talking about uh, and any sort of grief, like if we're talking about heart chakra stuff in yoga and in specifically traditional Chinese medicine, any sort of grief lives in the lungs. So any sort of pain around this area is going to have to do with old grief that your body has not processed. And emotions are very literally physical. I know we don't think of emotions as these like real things, but emotions trigger hormones in your body that if you don't process the emotions fully, they get stuck somewhere and they have to be released. So if you have any sort of like grief going on currently, if there's any sort of relationship that you're releasing, of course, we're coming up on eclipse season. So any relationships that weren't serving you are going to exit themselves. I've had to end a few relationships myself recently, both friendships and a romantic relationship. And it's hard to sit with that grief. But the purpose, if we're coming back to the why, again, the purpose of grief is to see, where was I seeking love outside of myself? And how can I create that love for myself? And again, that's just going to be taking really good care of yourself. So the first card I pulled here is the Sacred Soul Sister. And I love this card. This is from the Rumi Oracle card deck. And I'm just going to read a few pages. Of course, all Oracle and Tarot card decks come with little essays. So I'm just going to let a few sentences kind of unveil themselves to me. They kind of like highlight themselves when I look at them. Your sacred soul sister is your partner in consciousness. This is not something outside of yourself. This is something that comes from within. Make no mistake, she is you. And this is, gender binary pronouns, but this is beyond gender, right? She is just the part of you so great, you cannot always see her from your conscious mind. So to tap into her wisdom, to distill a teaching from the fragmented memory of a dream or a subtle feeling experienced in meditation, it requires that you walk in the gate of your sacred soul sister, of just your soul, and especially your divine feminine soul, which we all have a masculine and feminine side to us, right? The yin and the yang. So the feminine in all of us really wants to nurture and take care of us, right? So it's all about, it requires you to walk with her gate. It requires you to walk with this sense of, how can I nurture myself here? It's not the like conscious and intellectual minds. So it's about feeling first, with learning how to truly trust your body, allowing what is emerging to express itself through her. And I love that word emerging, because it feels like I want to like pull this energy out of me. But it also feels like, remember in Maleficent, the movie, where you see her like wings sawed off? That's what it feels like. It feels like my wings have been sawed off and now they're like regrowing. And it feels like the burning is such an interesting feeling. And someone commented on my threads of how she had a massage therapist tell her, at this time of year, this is when they burned the witches in the Salem witch trials. So I didn't Google it to see if that's actually true, but I was like, I'll believe that. I believe those witches are coming. They came back this round. They came back to help burn the patriarchy the way they tried to burn us. And the witches, of course, were never witches, they were healers. The witches were the midwives of the community who knew how to use nature to heal their community. And for some reason, they were demonized for healing their community with nature. So there's really a lot of rich messages there in terms of what do you want to do with this energy? I like to give it to the trees. I like to get out in nature and give it to the trees. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why like skiing is such a source of joy for me is like, I'm just hanging out with the trees and the trees in the mountain love it when the humans are having a good time. They'll take our grief. I've cried with so many trees over these past few weeks. I was just walking the dogs through this forest in this house that I'm house sitting here in Wyoming, and I just like fell to my knees in front of this old grandmother tree, and I was just like, "Will you take this from me?" And she was like, "I will feast on your emotions the way I feast on your breath and the way I will feast on your body when you die." And I just love the poetry of it because there's, a certain energy of like, is that a threat? But no, it's just us coexisting, right? As you inhale air and exhale carbon dioxide, the trees take that carbon dioxide and they give us air back, right? This is all about balancing the energies of the world. So to commune with her, it requires that you learn the ways of her world and the strange symbolic language that she speaks. And the universe, and the gods and the goddesses, the energy, source, the divine, whatever word you want to use, they're all the same thing. It doesn't communicate in a man-made language, right? We interpret it into a man-made language, human-made language. But the universe communicates with feelings. So when we have these feelings of pain, pain is not a punishment, although it can feel that way. Pain is always a message to make a different decision, right? And then that's when you go in and ask your heart, and you ask your gut, your sacral, like, what is the decision that needs to be made here? And the answer I've gotten consistently is ask for help. Ask your sacred soul sisters for help. And again, we're using a gender binary here, so it may not be like a literal woman in your life. In fact, I've been getting my healing work from someone who identifies as a man. And there's been something really beautiful and balancing, especially as I'm moving through grief I'm a, cis, white, straight woman. So as I'm moving through the grief of ending a relationship with a male, having a man there to like heal my body in a very platonic and healing way. There's something so sacred about sharing that energy of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And of course, my injuries are happening on the right side of my body, which is the yang side, which is the masculine side of the body. And so much of masculine injuries is about when we're taking on too much that isn't ours to take on. And that was a lot of what I had done in my previous relationship, taking on so many problems that were not mine and trying to resolve them. Because when you see a loved one suffering, of course you want to help. But sometimes, in fact, so often, the reality is the help is in the witnessing. And it's in the witnessing, it's in the learning how to witness the suffering of others and let them suffer and come to their own healing, that the true transformation is able to happen. So this oracle comes with a particular guidance. You know something deep in your bones without knowing how or why or without particular reason. You just know. This oracle comes as confirmation that your knowing, mysterious as it is your sacred soul sister talking through you. Trust it and act or not accordingly. Everything is all right. Your sacred soul sister has your back. So that was the first card that fell out of this pile as I was shuffling it, was the sacred soul sister. So much of this process, if you're experiencing pain, especially in your heart area or back of your shoulders area, that's going to be a lot of grief, any old grief, any old relationships that you're haven't fully processed the grief. That's what's coming out of you right now. Anything in your neck is going to be throat chakra. So it's going to be about learning how to use your voice. You've been quieting yourself, you've been silenced, or you've been silencing yourself. And so it's about learning how to use your voice in the format that it wants to be used. And of course, I'm here on video, I'm talking. This is one of the ways that you can quite literally use your voice. But for you, it may be writing. I'm also a writer. It may be art, painting, sculpting, collaging, beautiful art form. It can be singing, of course. It can be dance. It can be performing. But to quite like literally just kind of free up whatever's going on in there, you can hum or sing or chant mantra. I've studied yoga now for over 15 years, and mantra, the Sanskrit language, is just so magical, so healing, that if it resonates with you, it's worth, you can look up on Spotify some like chanting playlists and just sing along with them. And it really helps to just free whatever energy is in there that is not serving you, that is ready to be released into the ether. And then you get to move forward. So the next card that came up was this card, commitments. So desire does not have to be a hindrance on the path. It can show us our passions and help us find our purpose. However, the attachment that can come with desire, the belief that it can be sated only with one particular person, one set of circumstances, can cause us to stop looking at what the light is revealing to us and instead try to forcibly conjure the shadows to become what we imagine they should be. So this is all about committing to the present moment, committing to the reality of right this very second. Not, it's so easy to think about the past, and there can be some value to that, especially if you're working with, a qualified professional who can help you process the things that you've been ruminating on. But it's also not about thinking about the future. It's not about telling yourself the story of how you think it has to be. It's about looking at the reality of now and making a commitment to being so grateful for the present moment. And it is in releasing the attachment to the story that you're telling yourself of how things have to be, that you allow yourself to unfold the magic of what already is. So for this card, the essay continues, don't let fear that your desire won't manifest cause you to try to bend life to your will. It is an unnecessary battle and one that will not serve your soul here. Instead, just show up, be present, commit to the present moment. And one of the ways you can do that, I love a moving meditation. Yoga is an example of a moving meditation. Qigong, Tai Chi, these are all things I do with my day. But doing these things in nature. So I've been walking through the woods with the dogs that I'm dog sitting to the top of this lookout. And then I took you guys on a walk with me a few videos ago. So you can go watch that if you want to see where I've been walking, and share that with me. But then doing Tai Chi at the top of this lookout. And Tai Chi is a very sacred dance where you're working with all the different energies of north, south, east, and west, heaven and earth, and realigning your own energy. And it's just a magical practice where life just starts to get easier the more you do the Tai Chi dance. So if you haven't experienced Tai Chi, you can certainly Google for videos, or even better, find your local Tai Chi group. I used to live in San Francisco, and I would take the bus through Chinatown to get to Market Street to go to my job working at a PR firm. And you would see the people in Chinatown doing their Tai Chi, their very, moving energy around. And as I've learned it myself, I can actually feel the energy connecting in my hands, moving in my body. So moving meditation can really help you come to the present moment in a way that seated meditation may just be too overwhelming for right now, right? Seated still meditation might be too much rumination in here. And so moving the energy around through some sort of very symbolic and sacred way is the message, the suggestion for you. Okay, so this final card here, one of my favorite cards that pop up in any of my readings. Enter the Garden of Delights. Enter the Garden of Delights. And of course, you think of perhaps the Garden of Eden, and you think of, you know, the story that is just so mistold in the patriarchal version of the Bible. And the story of Eden is told in nearly every sacred text. You see versions of it in the Quran, you see versions of it in the Torah. Obviously, you see versions of it in the various versions of the Bible. But these are all versions of the story that make the divine feminine, right? The witches of the world, the nurturers of the world, the cause of the downfall of humanity. And the reality is there was no cause for the downfall of humanity. There was no original sin. There was just forgetting that we came here in this human form to experience the 3D and the sensational experience, sensational as in like our, you know, touching, smelling, tasting, hearing, seeing, then our sixth sense, our intuition, and our senses beyond that. The sensational experience of existing and learning how to move energy. So that is the true garden of delights. And we see the word delights, right? Enter the garden of the lights. In order to survive this, but not just survive, in order to thrive through this. Because what we are seeing, if we want to talk about it in terms of like lifetimes, what we are seeing now is the patriarchy burning while in response to the burning of women, of the divine feminine over time, and in light of humans refusing to nurture ourselves and to take care of each other and to value that. You know, it was, as I mentioned earlier, it was demonized to the point that so many of us were like brutally murdered. And now we're seeing it with, you know, Epstein files coming out, just the horrible things that happen, not just to women, but to, you know, people who absolutely did not deserve that. And as we watch this unfold, and as we watch the consequences of that energy move through the earth, it's so easy to go into a hopeless place and an angry, rageful, vengeful, bitter place. And that is not the message of this time. It's not toxic positivity to witness the suffering of the world and to choose joy. It's not saying I'm just going to cover my eyes and pretend it's not happening. All right, that's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is witness the suffering and learn how to transmute it into joy by breathing in the suffering of the world. For everyone who is suffering right now, this is a Buddhist meditation, the Tonglen meditation. Breathe in the suffering of the world and breathe out the antidote to that suffering. So if you're experiencing an anger, a rage, a despair at what is happening right now, you breathe in everyone who is experiencing anger, who is experiencing rage, who is experiencing despair. You breathe that in as a means of opening your heart to compassion, and you breathe out the antidote to these things. And the antidote to anger and rage is tolerance. The antidote to despair is hope. Although hope in the Buddhist sense is a form of suffering, because hope lives in the future, which I always think is interesting. So we think of, well, we want to be hopeful. We want to have hope for the future. But because hope forces us to live, to think about the future, why can't we have it right now? Why can't we live in joy right now? We can't force everyone else to, but you yourself can make the choice to enter the garden of delights and to take your blessings. So it says Rumi is your midwife, and I've mentioned midwives a few times because they used to call, you know, them witches. Rumi is your midwife to ensure full spiritual birth. You are being asked to cross this threshold from the life you have been living into the aliveness that is flickering and glowing at your feet. You have been through much, dear one. You have been through much death around you, within you. You have known this dark angel. This is why you are so full of life. A new day is dawning for you. There is a time when the past will very soon cease to have any hold over you. And that's what this pain is about. This is you shedding the layers of grief and regrets and anything from the past that you've been hoping to rewrite the story and to forgive the past. And forgiveness does not say it's okay that these terrible things happened. Forgiveness is giving up hope of ever changing the past. I heard that at a Seder one time. Celebration is imminent. You are invited into the golden light of divine plenty. Put your worries behind you. If only it were that easy that we could just toss them behind over our shoulder like salt. Step into your divine inheritance, and your divine inheritance is joy. You came here to experience joy. So do the things that bring you joy. Ask your inner child. What did your inner child love to do? Do those things. As a child, I loved to write. I'm writing a lot. I loved to ski. I'm skiing a lot. I loved to move my body to music. So I'm practicing a lot of yoga. I'm dancing. I loved dogs and cats and all animals as a kid. So I'm spending a lot of time with dogs and cats and animals. Ask your inner child, what do you need? What do you need? And then give that to her. Give that to him. Give that to them. You deserve it. You deserve your divine inheritance. Okay? So if you're experiencing extreme pain in your back, in your neck, step one, ask for help from qualified healers. Ask for help from your community. Talk to other people. You're not the only one going through it. This is a spiritual transformation that if you are very sensitive, as I am, you are experiencing the mass transformation that is happening as we burn the patriarchy down and move into an era of learning how to nurture each other and how to nurture ourselves, because that's what matriarchy is all about. This is divine justice that is happening in the world, and it is painful. It is a rebirth process. And it is physically painful, and what a joy to be able to experience pain. And what you're so far ahead of the game if you can for even one moment say, thank you for the experience of this pain. Thank you for the experience of this pain, because it helps me connect with my compassion, helps me open my heart to want it to be easier for other people so it can be easier for me. It's what compassion is. Compassion is, I just wish it were easier for everyone. And I do wish it was easier for you. I don't care what sort of harm you've caused on this earth. I don't care what sort of hurt that you've done to other people. I've hurt other people. I'm human, right? We all are. Give up the hope of ever changing the past. Just let it go, or just let it be. Sometimes we can't let it go. Sometimes you have to just let it be. Observe it, witness it, because it is in the witnessing that you are able to make the transformation you need to make to step into your divine right to joy. And joy is different than happiness, okay? Joy, enlightenment, just being grateful for the present moment, for exactly what is happening. I woke up this morning, I was so anxious, and I just didn't want to get out of bed. And I spent hours in bed, just like flipping through my phone, dissociating, until I was finally like, I can't just do this all day. So I turned on a meditation. I turned on 2 different meditations, one that I was working with the archangels to help bring some spiritual protection to my day. And one of my own meditations, I have a course on Insight Timer where I teach you guys pranayama, yogic breath work. And I absolutely take my own course. It's really good. I've taken it a few times. And I did the breath work exercises. And I was just like, at the end of it, I was like, what do you need? What do you need? And it was like, I'm ready for my blessings. I feel like I've been being punished, and I feel like I've lost so much, and I have. I've lost in the past year. My grandma died. My dog, my soul dog died. I just found out a family member is dying of cancer. It's probably not going to be here for that much longer. There's a lot to grieve. And in my own experience, and there's also just the mass suffering of the world that we are assaulted with every day of just how much people are suffering. And I asked, what do you need? Where? And it was like, I need my blessings. And I was like, well, what do you want? Like, what is the blessing you want? And then I went and sat and I had a cup of coffee and I watched, there's a birdhouse right out where right across from me. And I just watched the birds come and go. And when they would go back into the tree, all the trees are laden with snow right now, and the snow would just shower down. And it was just a moment of beauty, of pure natural beauty. And then I walked through the woods with the dogs, and what a joy to be able to walk. There have been times in my life I couldn't walk. I've had severe injuries that took years to recover from, where I couldn't just take myself for a walk, let alone walk up a big hill in knee deep snow. And it was like, these are your blessings, girl. Like, the blessings are here. You're just looking at the suffering. You've been focusing on the suffering instead of the blessings. Your blessings are here. And I hope this message is a blessing to you. I hope it eases some of how you've been suffering. Go do your yoga. Go to yoga class. Ask your healers for help. Now is the time to work with your healers. And give up the hope of ever changing the past. Express gratitude for the present moment, even if you're sobbing with the grief in your heart. Say thank you for the experience. Thank you for this, because it allows me to open my heart. Okay? We're all growing our wings here. I hope you have a beautiful night. Bye.